today I want to ramble on a little bit about essays. This is something that a lot of students struggle with. Maybe you've never really learned how to write an essay, or maybe you've been out of school for a while and you're a little bit rusty on your writing skills. And so before we really get into the how-to, I teach philosophy, and so that's kind of where we need to start here. And so I want to talk about what an essay is. Before I do that even, we need to back up a little bit further and ask, what are words? And we could spend, a lifetime answering that question, but in a very kind of limited way, I want to take you back to ancient Greece, to the Greek philosopher Heraclitus. Now, Heraclitus famously said that you cannot step into the same river twice. And this is a metaphor that he used to describe what he saw to be all of reality. He believed that everything is constantly in a state of motion. Everything is in a state of flux. And in large part, this is true that the world that we perceive through our senses is constantly moving. Now, if everything is in motion, then that creates a problem for knowledge, because my thoughts as reflection of the world that I'm perceiving will never actually keep up with the world as it actually is. And that's even assuming that I have an accurate reflection to begin with. And so he continued to think about this problem, and he recognized that there is at least one thing that is constant, and that is the principle of motion itself. And so the river may always be moving, but it's always moving in a consistent, predictable manner. And so this principle of change is an anchor of consistency that we might attach our minds to, and in so doing, gain something like real knowledge. Now, this word, or this unifying principle, he called the logos, which is translated into English as word. And so he believed it is the word that provides this unifying principle that holds reality together. And as your mind, as your soul is conformed into the image of the word, you gain stability over your life and over the experience that you have of this world that is constantly moving. Now, it might seem kind of strange to say that the unifying principle of reality is the word, but what is a word? Well, what a word does is it takes letters, which by themselves are only able to make a cacophony of sounds, but they're unintelligible, right? Letters themselves don't inherently carry meaning. Even if they might serve as symbols, they don't inherently carry meaning. But what words do is that they take these discordant letters, these discordant sounds, and they bring them together into something intelligible. And so a word is it's one of the smallest vehicles of meaning that we can find. It's this unifying reality. And so that's what words do. They take our discordant, otherwise disharmonious, chaotic experience of the world, and they make them into something meaningful, something rational, something intelligible. And so too, an essay really serves as, one thing, an extension of what a word does, but also a microcosm of the word. And of course, the word, the logos, this is a principle that received a lot of play throughout philosophy. And in fact, we even see it in the opening of the Gospel of John, right, where he begins, in arche hen ho logos, in the beginning was the word. And so this ultimate unifying principle is something that gets reflected in our pursuit of intelligibility, our pursuit of understanding, our pursuit of engagement with reality. And so, again, back to the essay. I could go off in all kinds of directions from this point, but an essay takes words and then arranges them in a way that communicates increasingly complicated and abstract reflections of reality, at least assuming that we're using words appropriately. And so you take words and then you put those together into sentences. And then, of course, sentences come together and bring more ideas together until finally we have something like a paragraph. And then we have multiple paragraphs made of multiple sentences, made of multiple words. And all these paragraphs are connected together when we do it correctly in a way that provides a kind of logic and a reflection, again, of how reality is. And so a good essay is not just something that you submit to get an academic mark. A good essay is a work of beauty that communicates something about the way things, the way reality fundamentally is. Now, of course, we can get that wrong, but I'm talking about the ideal, because if we're not starting with the ideal, then we'll never hope to achieve it. Okay, so let's get to how to write an essay. Now, there are different forms of essays that you can write. What I'm going to be talking about is just the very basic 5-paragraph essay. Again, this is not the only kind of essay that can be written, and I know that some people will get irritated with me for even focusing on this, but I mean, this is the basic essay format, and if you don't master the basics, then you likely shouldn't be wandering off into other territory quite yet. And so, in a basic 5-paragraph essay, you have 5 paragraphs. Okay, what is a paragraph? Well, a paragraph is really a miniature essay in its own. It has an introduction, it has approximately 3, 4, maybe 5 body sentences, it has a conclusion. And so a paragraph really should be a self-contained miniature argument that's going to play into your other self-contained miniature arguments in a logical way that creates your main argument. And so in your introductory paragraph, at the beginning of your essay, you're going to really introduce your introduction. You're going to expound on kind of why this matters, why you're going to be writing in this direction, and then end your paragraph with a conclusion. Now, the conclusion in your introductory paragraph should be a thesis statement. It doesn't matter what kind of essay you're writing. Your thesis statement should present the main points that you're going to be arguing, or the main points that you're going to be discussing in your essay. That way the reader knows exactly where you're going with this. They see the logical flow. And so once they start into your body, there's no question of, how does this actually relate to what I'm supposed to be reading about? Because they will already know, and more importantly, you also, as the writer, will know where you're going and how things connect. And so you should always have a thesis statement at the end of your initial paragraph that says, I will be arguing X, Y, and Z in order to prove A. I don't know why I use that sequence of letters, but I hope you see my point. And so you'll be arguing this point, this point, this point in order to demonstrate this thesis. Okay, so then, once you have your thesis statement, the rest really does just fall into place. Those 3 major points that you outlined in your thesis statement then become the outline for the body of your essay. And so you have one paragraph with introduction, body, and conclusion dedicated to each of those main points. And then you have a conclusion that recaps where you've been and then brings it all together in a more powerful way to say, because of X, Y, and Z, therefore A. And so, once you really set up your introduction well, the rest really does just kind of fall into place. Now, for many of you, this is not groundbreaking information, but for some of you, it is. And when I say that, I don't say that to make you feel bad. I mean, the truth is that most of us don't sit around writing or thinking about essays on a regular basis. And so I hope that this has been of some use for you. And if there's anything that I can do to help you along the way when it comes to writing, if that's not something that comes naturally to you, something you don't really feel confident about, then please let me know. I'll be more than happy to kind of explore your particular concerns and your particular needs as we move forward. All right, that's it for now, and I will see you next time.